All right, guys, night one recap of the 2025 Chili Bowl Midget Nationals. So 66 total cars entered on Monday night, which is lower than what we were expecting to see. I think at the beginning of the week, the entries for Monday were around 75 maybe or 73. So a lot of guys either switch nights or they aren't racing or whatever. So only 66 cars showing up. I expect that number to be much, much higher throughout the week as guys are switching and guys are choosing to race the race even though they maybe didn't want to at the beginning or whatever. So 66 entries. It started off with Kyle Larson winning heat race 1. He started third and got the win. Heat race number 2 went to Justin Peck. He went first to first. Heat 3 went to Nick Hoffman, a second to first run for him. Ashton Torgerson in heat race number 4, a 1-to-1 run for him there. Jerry Coons Jr., first to first in heat race number 5. Briggs Danner, heat race number 6 winner, 2-to-1 there on that one. Shane Golobic, 5th to first in heat race number 7. And Gary Taylor GT from 2nd to the win in heat race number 8. The first qualifier went to Shane Golobic, a 6-to-1 run for him. Qualifier number 2 went to Briggs Danner, a 5-to-1 run in that one. And then Ashton Torgerson, 4th to first in qualifier number 3. And Tanner Carrick, a 6th to first run in qualifier number 4. So you'll see a couple of names popping up multiple times there in that little brief recap of the earlier events of the night. Golobic winning his heat race from 5th, won the qualifier from 6th. Danner winning his heat race from 2nd, winning his qualifier from 5th. And then Ashton Torgerson winning his qualifier from 4th and his heat race from the pole. So those three guys were in really good position for the feature event starting lineup. Some of the storylines that took place before the feature had even started. Bill Balog, if you might know that name from the World of Outlaws, maybe some people watching this that don't really know dirt racing very well. Bill Balog ran the Outlaw Tour this year, and his night was over basically before it even started. And under the Chili Bowl rulebook, once you sign into the event, you cannot race another night. Balog ran about 2 laps in the hot lap session, and I think blew a rocker arm or something, or blew an engine or something. And so he's done. Bill Balog flew all the way to the Chili Bowl to run practice on Sunday and a couple of laps of hot laps, and that was it for him. The Beast Enterprises, Clad Enterprises 71G continues to have issues at the Chili Bowl. Also, during his heat race interview in Heat 1, it does sound like Kyle Larson is fighting some kind of illness. I don't know if he has the shootout flu or if he's just got, some other kind of sickness going on, but he definitely does not sound 100%. From the interviews that I heard with him, he did not mention anything about feeling bad, but you could definitely tell he's got some kind of head cold or something there. So that could be something to watch for later on in the week. Also, during the heat race with Cannon McIntosh and Brent Cruz, I want to say it was heat race number 3 or 4, there was work area time. And I can't remember from last year if there was work area time in the heat races and the qualifiers. And it even sounded like the announcers, Clinton Boyles and Caleb Hart and Chris Wilner, they were also kind of confused on the work area thing, especially when they said that, and then they found out that the rule was there's work area time before the halfway mark of a race, but then they cut to Cannon McIntosh in the work area and there's 3 laps to go in an 8-lap heat race, and he's still getting 60 seconds of time. So that is a little bit weird. We'll have to wait and see if they continue to make that rule a thing throughout the rest of the week. But definitely, I like it. I like there being work area time, because what if a guy, bikes up and blows a left rear tire off the bead and then he's done? I mean, come on, give him 60 seconds to try and change the tire. But it was a little bit weird how nobody really knew what was going on when it came to the work area time. We mentioned Cannon McIntosh. He went to the work area after flipping in his heat race, one of the main contenders for Monday night. He's won the Monday night prelim a couple of times in his career, but he got over the left side of Brent Cruz. He backed it up the hill, hit the wall, and flipped over. And he went to the work area, came back out, and still ran in the top 5. And then in that same heat race, Brent Cruz, he flipped all by himself in turn number 3. I don't think he was able to return. I can't remember. If he did not run very well because he had to run the C main. So 2 really good drivers. I mean, 2 guys that ended up finishing in the top 5 in the prelim night in the feature. They ended up flipping in the heat race, and it's pretty rare to see that, and then they still are able to come back and have a good run. So also, the Race of Champions was last night. I'm not going to talk too much about that. Tanner Thorson was the quickest overall in the Race of Champions qualifying, and then they pulled a 4 in the invert, and Christopher Bell started on the pole. The track was pretty heavy. It wasn't, super, super slick. Not a ton of It didn't take like a ton of skill, I felt like. I mean, the cushion wasn't on the wall. It wasn't a tough bottom to run, and Bell basically ran away. Dason Persley got a little bit close there towards the end, but it was all Bell's race to lose. Nick Hoffman, he was in the B main after winning his heat race. He did not have a good qualifier, got into it with Trevor Klein, climbed over the rear bumper of him, had to go to the work area. And then Hoffman was in the B main. He was running fourth after starting on the front row. He got into the wall and flipped over. And from what it sounded like on the broadcast, it might be the end of the week for Nick Hoffman. If he wasn't going to make the show and run well in the prelim night, I know he's flying back and forth from North Carolina to Oklahoma, he might be done for the week. I think he'll be back later on to be there and help Gordy Gundaker and the rest of the team. But as far as him racing, Nick Hoffman might be done for the week. So the World of Outlaws late model star could potentially be out. Brent Cruz, he would win the C main, which we would expect that from him. And then he went from, I want to say 13th to win the B main as well. So Brent Cruz was on the move, that is for sure. And then going into the feature, Michelle Decker transferred out of the B main and made her first prelim night main event since 2009. So that was cool to see for Michelle Decker. And then Jerry Coons Jr., by virtue of winning his heat race and running well in the qualifier, he made his 25th career prelim night feature event at the Chili Bowl. This guy does not age. He ages like fine wine, man. And I mean, there's not one person in the building or that watches on Flow that does not like Jerry Coons Jr., and he had a hell of a run here in this main event. Now, getting into the main event, Shane Golobic, he would lead early on in that feature event. He looked pretty good at the very beginning. He would lead the first 8 laps, but then here comes Briggs Danner. And if you watch my channel throughout the last week or so, I was very high on Briggs Danner driving the Alex Bowman racing car, and he is absolutely rolling. I mean, he started, I can't remember where he started at, like maybe like 5th or so, somewhere in that area, and he would blow the doors clean off of Shane Golobic going into turn 3. And you could tell as soon as he entered the corner, there was absolutely no way in hell that he was going to make it stick. Just absolutely obliterates the wall in turn 4, flips over, does a couple barrel rolls, and his night is over. Now, I have no idea what it's like to be a driver and be that fast and know that you've got a chance to win. But that's one of those situations that Briggs Danner is going to be looking back on and thinking, man, oh man, if I could have just, settled down, I still had over half the race to run. He could have been the car to beat in that race. Unfortunately, he ends off on the hook. He finishes 24th, and now he's going to be in an E main. So Briggs Danner, you hate to see that, especially if you picked him in the pool, but it's definitely a good sign for things to come for those ABR cars. Then Cannon McIntosh would take the lead on lap number 9 from Shane Golobic. He threw a slider on him, and Golobic and him would kind of stay pretty close throughout the next couple of laps. And the track, you could tell, is pretty gnarly early on. If you're a surfer from the West Coast, they were definitely hitting the gnar, that is for sure. Up on the wall, I mean, and it was early. I mean, lap 10, you could tell that it was starting to get ledged up pretty big against the wall. And early on the track, you could still run the bottom. But towards the end, it seemed like the bottom certainly faded away quite a bit. Torgerson, very impressive all night long in that Keith Kunz car. We mentioned it earlier. He went 1-1 in the heat race, and he went 4-1 in the qualifier. He is running third at the halfway point and maintaining the pace of Cannon McIntosh and Shane Golobic, and he's holding off Kyle Larson while doing that as well. And then around the halfway point, there's a big wreck between Zach Weigel and Tanner Carrick. And Carrick, I don't know what happened to him. Where did he go? He's not in the top 10. He started, I want to say, on the front row and just dropped the anchor out the entire race. But him and Zach Weigel get together, and afterwards, Weigel's the only one that gets us upside down. Carrick kept going. An interesting quote from Weigel saying that Carrick was mad that he got his doors blown off by a nobody 17-year-old. So I'm not sure if that's the case. Definitely an interesting quote there, and we're going to be getting those all week long, I'm sure about that. The top 5 on lap 17 is McIntosh, Golobic, Torgerson, Larson, and Justin Peck having a solid run at that point in time in 5th. And like I mentioned, Tanner Carrick has the anchor out. You could tell that he is really struggling. Last year's prelim night feature winner did not have it all together last night. 10 to go. The cushion is like hitting a brick wall. I mean, you could tell these guys are just trying to drive the car about as straight as they can into the corner, because if they back it in, they're going to bike it up. They're going to pick the left rear up off the ground, and you could tell they're doing wheelies off the corner. And this is what separates this type of racing from any other discipline in the entire world. I mean, how many other disciplines can a guy be running around the racetrack and just crash all by himself because of the conditions of the racetrack? Like, I don't see it happening in many other disciplines, like, let's say road course or, NASCAR or whatever. It just doesn't happen. You don't see a guy just wreck out of nowhere at Daytona, right? I mean, these guys are getting pushed to the limits each and every lap. I mean, it's crazy. You heard Larson in his victory lane interview saying that he has not ran a track like that in a midget in a long time. I mean, it is absolutely bone slick, no grip at all through the center of the corner, and then right up to a huge ledge against the wall. You could tell these guys, I mean, they were muscling those cars around. You could tell that they were wore out after the race. And you love to see that, man. You want to see that type of stuff. You want to see these guys getting pushed to their limits. 8 to go, Kyle Larson gets by Ashton Torgerson for the 3rd spot. And then with 7 to go, Golobic, who had been right there on the tail tank of Cannon McIntosh the entire race, he finally makes the move on McIntosh to take the lead with 7 laps to go, as I mentioned. Right after he takes the lead, though, there is a yellow comes out. Gary Taylor, who is running in the top 10, gets upside down. And then at that time, Brent Cruz, after winning the C and the B main, is up to the 6th position. And at the same time as that, Jerry Coons Jr. is running in the top 5. Jerry Coons Jr. is 95. He's not 95 years old. He is like 50-something years old, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he is up there hanging with these guys on the top. We know that Jerry loves him some bottom, but you could not run the bottom late in this race. It was just non-existent, and Jerry Coons Jr. was pounding the wall for all it was worth, and it was working out for him. Then with 3 laps to go, Kyle Larson makes the move on Cannon McIntosh. They go back and forth for about a lap or two, and then Larson finally shuts the door, slides himself in turn 3. McIntosh not able to get back by him. And then on the white flag, Shane Golobic is going to win this race going away. I mean, he was going to win it. He had a 10-car length lead on the backstretch. The yellow flag comes out for a car getting upside down. It was Kyler Johnson gets upside down, running around 15th at the time, and that sets up a overtime restart. Lap 30 instead of 31, or instead of 30 laps, it goes 31. And literally Golobic, who is trying to win his first prelim night ever after running second, I think it's 5 times he's ran second on a prelim night and never been able to win. He then has to hold off the best driver in the world for 2 laps on a track that is just so hard to run. On the restart, Golobic does get away, but Larson kind of, he ran the cushion way better than Shane. Shane got really tight, couldn't get the car turn, and then Larson just sent it off in there, threw a slider on him. And then in the last corner, Shane Golobic plays really nice. I mean, they both enter the corner. Larson with a slider line goes in on the bottom, slides it up to the top. Golobic does the same thing. Could have easily just kind of hooked his bumper and jacked him up sideways coming off the corner, but he did play nice. He ends up in second. Kyle Larson would get the win, leading only 2 laps of the main event. Shane Golobic would finish up in second. Both of those guys are locked into the show. Larson would start 4th, Golobic from the pole. As I mentioned, Larson led the final 2 laps. Golobic led laps 1 through 8, 24 through 29. Cannon McIntosh would end up in 3rd. He started 7th. He led laps 9 through 24, and he will be on the front row of a B main on Saturday night. Brent Cruz was the hard charger, 17th to 4th after coming out of the C main. That is a hell of a run for him. He will be in the B main on Saturday. Ashton Torgerson, just a really solid run for him. Was 3rd the whole race, ends up coming home in 5th. He started 5th. He'll be in the B main as well on Saturday. Jerry Coons Jr. just continues to do Jerry Coons Jr. things. Finally, nothing happened to him. It seems like the last 5 years, something would always happen to Jerry, but he would end up in 6th after starting in 10th, and he will be in the B main on Saturday as well. Joe B. Miller, 13th to 7th for him. Justin Peck, solid run as well, a 9th to 8th run. He is the final driver going to the B main on this prelim night. And then behind them, you got Trey Marcham, 8th to 9th for him. He will be in a C main on Saturday. And how about a round of applause for Dylan Welch? I mean, taking the old Honda from the B main, he goes 22nd to 10th. I mean, on a track that is just elbows up as you could ever think of. And Dylan Welch ends up inside the top 10. He will be in the C main on Saturday. Fantastic run. As I mentioned in the pool pick video, I knew that he was going to do something that made me regret not taking him. So nice job to Dylan Welch. Nice job to Kyle Larson. And we will do it all again tonight as well. So Tuesday night is coming up here in a few hours. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, comment down below. What did you think of last night at the Chili Bowl Midget Nationals? And we'll talk to you guys again here soon.